Welcome to Michiana Mainlines. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be taking a layout tour. This is an HO layout, a shelf layout that runs about 70 feet. And we're going to be taking a look at it here and some of the notable parts. Right now we're starting at the end of the line here, so to speak. Now this is about a 1 foot shelf that just runs out from the wall. You can kind of see the edge here now. Digitrax is the DCS system that is used to operate this. Nothing fancy here. You can just see wooden leg supports. There are wiring underneath there. You can see this was kind of just a down and dirty setup of a shelf layout, a point-to-point operation. Cars aren't weathered, buildings aren't weathered, but we do have scenery. Here again now, the edge here we're starting with, this is kind of a scrapyard. You can see the scrapyard details here. Here's something that's kind of unacceptable. You will see at the very edge here an N-scale track. That's a part of an N-scale layout that actually shares this same scrapyard. I know that's not something you should really do for realism, but hey, that works for me, and that's the beauty of model railroading. You can kind of do whatever you want to do. So anyway, let's move right along over here. We see a nice road crossing. That's Walter's street system. Here we have the more prominent kind of main line. Here is a background building, American Hardware Supply, another Walter's kit. This is only about 2.5, maybe 3 inches wide. You can kind of see the side view there. What's neat about these background buildings is this is just what they're set up for. They don't take up much room. They just kind of hug the wall. A full building, of course, would have took the whole foot of this layout. So that's what's so neat about it. Right next to it here, we have another background building, Centennial Mills. See a hopper car spotted at that dock. Take a look here now as we move on down the line. We kind of get into a yard area here. This is kind of where all the cars are that kind of serve this half of the shelf layout. Again, the more prominent main line in the center. Sidings on the side. Notice the geometry of those sidings where they're just kind of not exact geometry because it was used with the flex track. This is code 83 flex track that was used on this layout, so it kind of makes it look a little bit more realistic. Then we'll continue to mosey on down here. We're moving along one wall, and then this thing will hit a curve here in the corner. Now down in this end we get into another industrial area here. This is kind of a petroleum refinery type of a setup. Again, space saving. We just have some storage tanks here right up against the wall, so it doesn't take up a whole lot of room to have an entire industry. Take a closer look at that there. There's the loading platform back there. Tank car spotted. Actually, a couple tank cars spotted here by different loading platforms. This gets us into the corner. Here is the locomotive and caboose that is assigned to operating this section of track. I believe that is an Athearn locomotive, lettered for the South Shore. Conrail transfer caboose. Now in the very corner we have a nice big large full-size grain elevator, ADM, that has the internal dock. We'll get to see the side of that here in a little bit. Here's some petroleum tanks, another loading area, another freight customer. Quite a few freight customers on this branch. Here we see tank cars spotted right behind those tanks. See if we can get a side view here of that corner looking in the other direction. I don't get entangled in my wiring here. Alrighty, yeah, you can kind of see there. It's getting a little dark in some of these areas, but you can kind of see the spur that runs behind the ADM. Then we break out here into kind of a more rural setting, I guess you would say. road crossing, old general store type of building there, Denizens 5 and Dime. Here we have a little bit of an abandoned track that looks like it used to once connect here to the main line, but you just see a segment of track there that's kind of in an overgrown state. Here we have a connection where this line joins a kind of a peninsula train table. We're not going to concentrate too much on that. That may be a future video if I do any more of these. We'll see if there's any interest. But now it actually runs along a table board for 8 feet to be exact, right alongside that layout. You do see a switch up there behind those locomotives where it does connect to that table layout, but that is not really used. I just operate this as a point-to-point, and I think probably over the past 19 years, maybe only a handful of trains have actually used that connection to go on to the other layout. So now I'll kind of do a backup view here, kind of move backwards and out just to get a look at that corner again, and then we'll continue to progress past the main board. Again, looking at the edge of the main board where the line runs. You can see I don't have any backdrops or anything like that. I just do it down and dirty. I'm more interested just in the operation rather than anything else. Now, here's where the track comes off of that main board. We see kind of another little grade crossing here right in the corner. Most of these signals operate but just on an on and off basis. There's no automatic sensors in the track or anything. That just gets too cost prohibitive. Looking down that line where it runs right along the old tabletop, you can kind of see almost the weed overgrown look of a not that much used branch line, but still used. That's exactly the effect I wanted. Here we have another kind of unconventional connector between the table and the shelf now that begins on the other side. So now we are back on the shelf. Kind of in another abandoned rail scene here with some very weed-grown track that's not even used anymore. Pavement going right over the track. Remains of an old broken down signal still there. Old house. Here we have a highway overpass that goes over the line. And now we start to get into kind of more of a city scene with some more street crossings and a lot of houses very close to the track. This is kind of inspired by the west side of South Bend, the line that ran from South Bend to Niles, where it went to residential neighborhoods. It's kind of the effect I wanted here, although not to any kind of actual modeling of any specific houses in it or anything. In fact, you know, the track wasn't that close to the houses, but you know, here it is due to necessity. Gets a little bit dark here because there's not really any light. Well, there is, but not a very good one. Another look here at one of the city streets. Again, working signals. That church there is kind of inspired by St. Stanislaus Church on the west side of South Bend, although not intended to look exactly like it. And again, the real church was about a block away from the track when it used to run through there. This one is right next to it, but that's kind of a neat thing. Part of the modeler's license to do what you're able to do and what works. Here now we get into a section of street running. This now again kind of inspired by Michigan City and Niles, Michigan. We see where that runs down a pretty nice long stretch of street running. That again, Walter's street system does a very nice job of getting the pavement right around the rails. I'll take a look at this street here. Signals, overhead cantilever signals here for this street. Get a better look here if we can of how that track actually looks. in the street. Very nice look, nice and smooth. So we go down this neighborhood scene here. Another street here with a working traffic signal, but it is not on right now, so we don't get to see that in operation. But here kind of a store frontage along this street. And then we get to some more rail business. We have a nice embedded switch in the street here, which leads to another background building with a capacity for 3 40-foot boxcars or 2 50-foot boxcars. Also a little bit of a scrapyard there that was just added. We see a street sweeper. And we come now to another background building, this being a more of a full-size building almost, but it's still a background building. But this one features an internal dock. We kind of see a couple 40-foot boxcars in there, one high cube inside there. Another grade crossing here with the operating signal. Water tower. And now we're kind of getting to the midpoint as far as operations go. We have another grade crossing here. Here we have a, for visual interest, another rail line that crosses this line. You know, doesn't go anywhere, not connected to anything, but just kind of a nice touch. This is pretty much where that first locomotive's territory ends. We now come to another industry, kind of a double industry here. We have a big coal pile, which loosely inspired by the Notre Dame coal pile, but it is primarily a cement plant. We see some cement hoppers on the siding there. Another Walters kit, Medusa cement. Now, this kind of is going to start getting us into the other half of this 70-foot of shelf. And there's another locomotive around there that kind of splits the Medusa work and handles all the other business that we're going to be coming through here. Let's see some more houses here. A little bit of a more of a rural scene, just a 2-lane type of road here. And then we get to the corner. We turn another corner here. Kind of a sharp curve. We see a scrapyard right around the corner there. A couple scrap gondolas with nice scrap loads. I just recently did those scrap loads. Those are shavings of metal that are glued onto cardboard as a filler material and then put into the gondolas. I'm pretty pleased with the way those came out. I think that makes a real neat looking load. So there we have the scrapyard. Also an under the track aggregate or stone type of unloading area where a hopper can be spotted. Kind of back off here and give a look at that here as this moves along another road. Here we have kind of an interesting and complicated crossing of where two switches meet. Scrapyard to the right. To the left we have another industry that crosses the road. It'll be getting a little bit dark here, but that is the Magic Pan Bakery Complex in the corner with the spur that goes behind there. We see a covered hopper back there for unloading. Here we have another grade crossing with working lights. 2-lane type of road. Here the main or the branch kind of separates into 2 tracks. Is the one there to the right goes to another industry here. As we round this corner, we back out, we have another industry, kind of a bimodal type of a warehouse. American Hardware Supply is what the lettering is on it. We see a reefer spotted at one of the docks there, multiple docks available. And this kind of gets us into the home stretch. Here we have the engine that is assigned to operate this side of the layout. Another Athearn engine, Conrail caboose. In the background, another background building, Lakeville Shipping. Kind of appropriate since we have a Lakeville in southern St. Joe County. Back off here a little bit if we can. I know this is going to be kind of dark because there's not very good light in here. But here we kind of have kind of the main track and a passing track. The CSX local is kind of on the passing track. Here is the interchange area with cars sitting. This actually is out on a actual shelf now here. This is a big shelf in this corner, and so it just runs right out onto one of the shelves. Didn't really need all the shelf space, so converted into a model train layout. So we see that interchange area here, and the passing track around the back where the engines can get around it. And then we come to another customer, kind of an off-site hopper tank car loading area. You can see the piping put in, just kind of a space-saving little area there where it's kind of like an industry that's off the scene, just has its unloading area there. And then we come to our final industry, one more background building. It's lost in shipping with a couple of reefers spotted at the docks. These are really cool buildings though. If we move this car, you can kind of see the nice dock there, and it just gives it all some purpose. And this is where the shelf ends, right here up against the wall. One final road with, of course, working crossing signals, and kind of an abandoned line scene. I don't know if you could see this very well, but there's actually 5 tracks here. Only this one of which is still actually usable. The others are paved over, kind of what used to be a remnant of a yard type of a thing, and that's where it ends at the wall. So I hope you found some interest in this. If you like this, let me know. I might do some more of this kind of stuff. Maybe something showing the operation of the Digitrack system and how that works on walking this line and operating it. We'll see how it goes. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, like, subscribe. Until later, have a good day.